Raiders, Speranza is calling, but what awaits you in a world ravaged by humans and crawling with deadly mechanical creations? My name is Kodiak, this is Legacy Gaming, and after playing the game in many forms throughout the course of its development, we're excited to share our ultimate preview of Embark Studios' new PvEvP third-person extraction shooter, Arc Raiders. We've been making ultimate previews since the early days of the channel. It's our way of combining elements of a beginner's guide with complete breakdowns of a game's systems before launch. Hopefully, you'll learn something, or maybe the info gives you an edge against other players, but at the end of the day, it's about understanding what to expect on day one. This will serve as a quintessential guide leading into the public server slam on October 17th, as well as the full launch on October 30th. Be sure to check out the chapters in the description so you can find out about specific info quickly. With that out of the way, let's get into it. Speranza, the underground city, is the main hub of Arc Raiders and where you'll find yourself a majority of the time. On the bottom right of your screen, just above the play button, you'll be able to invite your friends into your 3-man squad. If you're more of a lone wolf, you can also queue up solo by setting Fill Squad to off. On the flip side, if you want to matchmake with random players, simply set this to on. The play button will take you to a map selection screen where you'll be able to select the specific map you'll want to queue into for your next expedition topside. More on this later. At the top left of your menu, you'll see both challenges and quests. Challenges are randomized objectives you must complete that are tied directly into the Battlepass system. As you complete these, you'll be rewarded with cred, the Battlepass currency that's used to unlock all items and packs seen there. On the other hand, quests are obtained from the various traders in the game, and when first starting out, help serve as the player's onboarding experience with increasingly complex aspects of the game's progression system. These will task you with either killing certain types of enemies, collecting a specific piece of loot, or interacting with something at a unique location during your expeditions. Once completed, you can return to the trader who gave you the quest, and you'll be able to claim a boost of XP and an assortment of loot for your progression and crafting. The great thing about both systems is that most of them can be completed by yourself or your squad mates. For example, if there is a specific arc bot that you need to kill with a specific weapon, even if your teammate is the one to do that, you'll receive the credit. The Trader tab is where you'll find the various NPCs that offer items based on their different specializations. It's a place where you can spend coins, the currency you obtain by selling loot you pick up during expeditions, but also pick up quests. Celeste is primarily a story-related NPC that you'll receive quests from. Johnny is the security specialist, and it's here you'll be able to purchase raw materials. This used to be where you could purchase Raider hatch keys, something we'll talk about later, but last we heard, these were being changed and made harder to obtain. Tian Wen runs the gun shop where you can purchase weapons, ammo, and base level attachments. Apollo is the grenades and gadgets guy where you can purchase things like door blockers, zip lines, mines, and of course, grenades. And finally, there's Lance, who operates the clinic where you can purchase shields, shield recharges, and various forms of first aid. Maintaining a healthy stockpile of coins is essential in Arc Raiders because without it, you won't be able to rebuild your loadout after a death, or repair powerful gear you've managed to keep over time. The Workshop tab is where you'll go for all of your crafting needs. Since Arc Raiders is a drop-all-loot-upon-death extraction shooter, you'll often find yourself restocking your loadout or rebuilding it from the ground up. You'll start with the basic bench, already constructed, and will need to build the others by spending resources you find topside. Once built, each crafting station can be further improved by investing more resources and leveling them up. Every time you upgrade a crafting station, you'll unlock new recipes to craft, but also gain access to recipes you've brought back from raids if they are in that respective tier. As this is one of the most critical aspects of the game, we're going to break down the various stations you can expect to establish and what exactly you'll need them for so you can evaluate which ones to prioritize. Every time you come back from the top side, Scrappy the Rooster will offer you a variety of basic materials from his collection box. This serves as a way to constantly have base level materials coming in, even if you're dying. These can be used for crafting or for selling in large quantities for extra coins. As you upgrade Scrappy, he'll begin to source other random items from the surface as well, making him an essential station for long-term success. The basic bench allows you to craft the basic augment, which we'll talk about later, a basic shield, some basic base level weapons, ammo, and basic consumables like shield rechargers and bandages. The weapon bench allows you to craft, you guessed it, weapons, but also attachments and even weapon upgrades, another system we'll talk about later. The equipment bench is where you can craft different tiers of augments and shields critical to your survival. The med station gives you access to vital consumables like bandages, shield recharges, adrenaline shots, and more. You'll need a healthy supply of these, as the more experienced players get, the more consumables they'll bring into raids to keep themselves topped off during a fight. The explosive bench gives you access to grenades and mines, and this might not seem important initially, but these items can be critical at flushing players out of cover or taking down the more menacing arc machines so you can salvage their valuable components. The utility bench gives you access to things like door blockers, deployable barricades, and the ever-important photoelectric cloaks, as well as zip lines. The former allows you to temporarily remove arc aggro, while the latter is vital for efficient traversal and escape during hectic fights. Finally, there's the refiner, something you'll need for later progression, as it allows you to craft rarer components out of lower tier resources slowly over time. If you're ever in need of resources for various workbench upgrades or for crafting specific items, consider recycling items from your inventory. The higher tier materials will break down into the lower tier components that created them. Because items are almost always made from multiple lower tier components, rarer components are almost always more efficient to bring back when tight on inventory space. The character tab, in addition to your character's look, is where you'll find Arc Raiders' long-term progression system, specifically your skill tree and masteries. As you complete quests and successfully extract from topside expeditions, you'll earn XP to invest into 3 different skill trees. Conditioning focuses on your overall stamina, encumbrance, and ability to breach. Mobility allows you to do things like climb and vault more quickly, while also increasing your overall speed and maneuverability. And finally, there's survival, all of which aids in making you quicker, more efficient, and stealthy while looting and evading enemies. You'll gain 1 skill point every time your character levels up, with most skill tree nodes featuring multiple levels that you can invest points into, improving your character's overall effectiveness each time. On the other hand, masteries present a wide variety of challenges for you to take on during your expeditions, ranging from defeating enemy players and looting specific containers to dealing damage to specific arc enemies. As you earn points towards these challenges, you'll be rewarded with bronze, silver, and gold tier ranks that also reward you potent items and their recipes, so you can better outfit yourself before future expeditions. Besides those 2 core progression systems, this is where you can customize your raider with various outfits and cosmetics. These can come from events, special pre-order packages, and as Battle Pass rewards. Finally, there's the Battle Pass tab, and we can keep this brief. There are various Battle Passes you can invest in over the course of progression that culminate in the expected cool cosmetics. By completing your challenges, you'll earn cred that you can spend inside these Battle Passes, unlocking various rewards like equipment, resource bundles, weapon packages, skins, and most importantly, Raider tokens, the game's premium currency. This allows you to then purchase premium cosmetics simply by playing the game. Before heading into an expedition, it's important to take stock of your equipment. When on the hub screen, you can press Tab to access your inventory. This is where you'll be able to see your stash and your loadout. The stash is where you'll store all the items you've successfully extracted back to Speranza with, and you can filter this via the icons on the left side of the screen to easily find what you're looking for. Your stash space is initially very limited, but if you click the square icon next to the word stash, you'll be able to increase the capacity of your stash by spending coins, the currency you obtain from selling items you bring back from topside, up to a certain point. Past that limit, you'll need to use Raider tokens, and while that is a premium currency, keep in mind there are many opportunities to claim these within the Battle Pass. To the right of your stash is your character's loadout, and anything here is what you'll take with you into your next expedition. Additionally, and most importantly, anything in your loadout, should you die, will be lost and available for other players to loot. There are 2 types of loadouts currently available in Arc Raiders: custom loadouts and free loadouts. With a custom loadout, you get to choose anything from your stash to take with you into your next run, but again, it's all up for grabs if you die. Custom loadouts allow access to two unique features. The first is being able to equip a Raider Augment, more on this shortly, and the second is a safe pocket. On your loadout UI in the bottom right, this tells you how many safe pocket slots you have available to place items inside during a run. Regardless if you successfully extract or die during a run, the contents of this pocket will always be successfully extracted. If you're on a hunt for a super valuable item or have a series of keys you can't afford to lose, this is a fantastic place to keep those items. On the flip side, a free loadout will drop you into an expedition with a completely randomized set of gear, including the weapons, which can make a huge difference depending on the types of enemies or players you run into. If you can successfully extract with a free loadout, you'll keep all that starting gear in addition to whatever you find during the run. We found that running a free loadout, then on the next run going in with a custom loadout using that loot we just brought back, allowed us to push harder points of interest in hopes of coming out on top. However, there is a drawback to free loadouts as they don't have access to a safe pocket or a Raider Augment. That means if you find a recipe or anything of value topside, you must successfully extract because there is no place to safely hide it. Raider Augments, which we've mentioned before, get equipped in a special slot on your character's loadout screen. Once slotted, their effects will apply to your character. This includes things like increased backpack slots, a higher or lower weight limit for loot, total weapon slots, and quick use item slots. Using a Raider Augment on a custom loadout will bring your safe pockets from 3 down to 2 as a trade-off. More importantly, depending on the rarity or tier of the Raider Augment you have active, will determine how large of a shield you're allowed to equip going into or during a run. Larger shields will absorb significantly more damage, but you also have to take into account their weight. The more weight you carry with you going in means the less loot you can extract with due to over-encumbrance. When you're topside in Arc Raiders, outside of your wits and a few gadgets, your survival largely depends on the weapons you choose to use. These fall into several different categories and each have their own benefits and weaknesses to consider. Light weapons, which include most pistols and SMGs, are great in close quarters combat situations against players. However, outside of the most lightly armored arcs, these weapons become essentially useless against their armor. Medium weapons are made up of primarily assault rifles, some semi-automatic rifles, and light machine guns. These are good choices for both PvP and PvE fights, but are often less snappy than light weapons. Heavy weapons include things like hand cannons and sniper rifles, and are extremely hard-hitting weapons that excel at mid to long range. They punch through arc armor and player shields like a hot knife through butter, but you can carry significantly less ammo for these guns due to their smaller ammo stacks. Shotguns are pretty self-explanatory, great for close-range engagements and hit quite hard, but they have significant damage drop-off the further away your target is, and the ammo type is exclusive to these weapons, meaning in a pinch, you'll often find much less shotgun ammo than other weapons in the game. Finally, there are energy weapons. Unfortunately, we haven't run across any of these during all of our tests, but the ammo exists, so we'll have to wait and see what these are and how they perform. There are two ways you can increase the potency of your weapons in Arc Raiders, outside of simply finding a rarer weapon, and that comes in the form of attachments and upgrades. As you scavenge topside, you'll come across attachments as both physical items and recipes that you can craft back at your workshop. Weapons have between 2 to 3 attachment slots, and these can boost 1 to 2 stats of the weapon depending on the attachment. Where your weapon really sees a power increase is when you actually level them up through the weapon bench. Here, for a set amount of materials depending on the tier, you'll see most, if not all, stats upgraded on the weapon each time. Just keep in mind, these upgrades are on a per item basis, so if you lose that upgraded item during an expedition, you'll need to restart the upgrade process on a new one. As you use your weapons and shields or you loot them off other players, they'll degrade, meaning you'll need to repair them using coins, another reason to always keep a stockpile. The repair cost will depend on the rarity of the weapon and how much durability it's missing. One of the great things about Arc Raiders is the sheer variety of experiences possible through the different maps you'll have access to, and each of these maps tells you beforehand what sort of loot you can expect to find. Dam Battlegrounds is a huge map that's bisected by a massive dam. On one side, a lush, swampy environment. On the other side, a rocky wasteland. Verticality plays a big part in the fighting experience when around the dam, But as you hit those outer regions, combat devolves into finding cover in foliage and ambushing other teams amongst rocky outcroppings. Buried City is a large town built around a highway overpass that's now been overrun by sandy dunes. You'll fight across rooftops and other structures completely reclaimed by the desert, creating just as many close-range encounters as long-range kill corridors. There's also Spaceport, an absolutely massive map with a walled-in spaceport complete with a launch tower and multiple ancillary buildings to fight in and around. There are a ton of open, exposed spaces, but also a number of interconnected interior spaces, so fights can break out pretty much anywhere. There are also 2 additional maps that they've only briefly teased without any gameplay footage. Blue Gate will be located higher up in the mountains, featuring open areas, small towns, and underground complexes. Stella Montis, on the other hand, has no details yet, but we know it's coming. All maps in Arc Raiders can feature different weather patterns, like rain, fog, and cinders, just to name a few. In addition, each expedition can happen at a different time of day, which can completely transform areas of shade and sun. To make maps even more interesting, there are a variety of events that can take place during any expedition. One of the most notable is night raids, pitch black versions of those same maps, but with a drastically increased arc presence as well as increased loot. Players we faced in this game mode come fully loaded with their best gear, so we strongly recommend you do the same. Other events include Lush Blooms, where fruit and vegetable items become abundant, both randomly on the ground and scattered in wicker baskets across the map. Uncovered caches cause hidden raider caches to become exposed, which you can hear thanks to their ticking sound from a solid distance away. Inside, you'll find surprisingly good gear, which can help replenish your stash reserves. Finally, there's the Harvester, an absolutely massive arc machine that roams specific areas of a map. If the server you're on can band together, which is challenging in a PvP environment, you can attempt to take this down and then fight over the insane loot it's guarding. As you can see, just the few maps and events that we've had the chance to play give the whole expedition experience some serious longevity, and the longer this game is developed, the more maps and events we could possibly see post-launch. Maps feature a color-coded points of interest system, which allows all players to know the difference between a low loot area and a high loot area, perfect for those new players still learning the game and putting everyone on a somewhat even playing field. Areas marked white have the scarcest amount of loot and the lowest arc presence. Yellow areas often have decent loot and the threat level can vary. Red areas are the most hotly contested and feature abundant loot, often having extreme arc presence and higher rarity loot. Regardless of what Arc Raiders map you're on, the goal is to bring back loot, and it can be found everywhere if you know where to look. The obvious places are within the various shelves, cabinets, and lockers found throughout the different residences and facilities on each map. Some of these are more difficult to open than others and will require you to breach them first, which takes time and causes significant noise disturbance in the area. While these will often have better loot, players and Arc machines alike can hear when you breach an object, so always be on alert to both the sounds and visuals within your immediate vicinity. On top of lootable containers, any Arc machine you successfully take down can be looted for materials and valuable components. The harder an enemy is to take down, such as a Bastion or a Bison, the more valuable its unique components are. Get used to taking these down when you see them, because as you progress, higher tier crafting stations and upgrades will require their more valuable parts. What's interesting is that you don't always have to kill an Arc machine to find Arc-specific loot. Sometimes they're already dead. Across each map, you'll find wreckages of couriers and husks. Some of these are massive, such as the walkers you can find in the Arc Battleground POIs on the Dan Battlegrounds map. Regardless of which ones you find, you'll always need to breach these to gain access to their valuable components. There are also more dynamic events that can happen during your expedition. For example, you might see or hear an Arc probe that recently crashed into the planet. These take a significant time to breach and are often completely out in the open, but if you can successfully rip their protective panels off, you'll find 3 separate compartments of valuable loot. If you hear a nearby ticking sound, you might be close to an exposed raider cache. Just follow that noise until you locate it, and inside will be some decent loot, like weapons, ammo, and even higher rarity shields. Field crates are also worth mentioning. These small containers can be picked up and carried by anyone on your squad, but while doing so, you can't use any of your weapons and you'll move slowly. If you check your map, a fuel depot might be close by, and if so, you should definitely try and get this crate to that point of interest. There you'll find a machine that you can slot the crate into. Shortly after doing so, it will fill another compartment that anyone can access with random assortments of loot, typically ammo, grenades, and medical supplies. While we talked about color-coded POIs before, let's break that down a bit more. White areas on your map will often contain gray-colored common loot. You can get lucky and find some higher-tier stuff, but don't bet on that happening. Yellow points of interest will have a decent amount of varied mid-tier loot, typically ranging from uncommon green loot to rarer blue loot. Red areas will have the most foot traffic, as these not only have an abundant amount of varied containers to break into, but will often have the highest rarity of loot. It's here you'll frequently find epic pinkish purple components and weapons, which you should always pick up. If you find a recipe in Arc Raiders, you'll want to successfully extract it so that it becomes unlocked at the respective crafting bench back in your workshop. These should be stored in your safe pockets whenever possible so that you always extract with them without the risk of losing it. Back at your workshop, you can check your recipes via the crafting recipes prompt at the bottom of your screen. Finally, there are keys. These unlock specific rooms on specific maps, and keys for a door on one map can be found randomly on an entirely different map. It just comes down to game knowledge and knowing which keys are for which map. Regardless, these are always valuable to pick up and extract, as you can bring them into the map they're for, keep them in a safe pocket, and reap the rewards only if it's convenient for you and your group. Once you've gathered all the loot your team can reasonably carry, or the map wipe timer at the top of the screen is approaching 0, it's time to extract. And in Arc Raiders, there are several different ways to do that. The first and most common are elevator extracts. Here, you'll need to activate a button on the outside of an enclosed structure that calls for the elevator to come to the surface. During this time, lights will begin to flash at the location, and a loud pinging sound can be heard by all players in Arc in the nearby area. Sitting out in the open during the process is asking to get picked off, so activate the console and retreat to a more concealed area nearby. Just be prepared to move the second the elevator doors open, because other players can and will steal your extract given the opportunity. Once inside the elevator, you'll need to activate a second console to close the doors and lower the elevator. This will take several seconds to activate, and during that time, fights will often break out. Consider smoking the location or body blocking for your teammates to avoid having them go down. If you do happen to get knocked near an extract point, you can still crawl inside and use the console. As long as you don't fully die before extracting, you will successfully get out with all your loot. The second type of extraction are trains. These are nearly identical to elevators, but instead, you'll need to work your way down into the subway station and call for a train there. On the surface, the same flashing lights and sounds will ping to all nearby enemies as the train is arriving. When the doors open, be careful, as the door on the other side of the platform will also open and can easily break out into a fight. Activate the console inside the train, close the doors, and you'll be out with your loot. There is a third unknown extraction type coming to the game, but we aren't sure what that will be. We've only seen this image on social media. Lastly, let's talk about raider hatches. These are small extraction points that require a raider hatch key to open, but once you do that, your entire team will have several seconds to pile inside and extract without any waiting time. After a brief period, these will close and become inaccessible again, so be sure to only activate them when you know you can get inside right away. These keys used to be purchasable at Shawnee back in Speranza, but they eliminated a core aspect of the high-stakes extraction loot. Because of that, you'll need to get lucky and come across raider hatch keys during your expedition and make the crucial decision if you want to consume that during that run or save it for a future run. Don't forget, you do have safe pockets, and that makes an awesome place to store a hatch key if you have one. Up until recently, we didn't know anything about how Arc Raiders would handle a quintessential feature of extraction shooters, wipes. We haven't experienced the system ourselves because it wasn't available during the testing, but we do know how it will be implemented in a system the team is calling projects. These are intended as a long-term or event-focused task that will require a significant amount of resource contribution in exchange for substantial rewards. The difference between Arc Raiders and other extraction shooter wipes is that the wipe system is entirely voluntary. The first project the team has talked about is called the Expedition Project. Once your player level reaches level 20, you'll gain access to the first major project. The expedition will operate on a repeating cycle of roughly 8 weeks, and during this time, players can contribute towards project progress. At the start of the 8th week, the ability to finalize the project will become available for that entire last week. If you've fulfilled all the necessary stages, you'll be able to commit to completing the expedition, and a character reset will become available. If your project isn't ready during the window to complete, your progress will be kept and allow you to continue working on that project until the next finalization window. When you choose to complete the expedition project, you will lose anything inherent to your character's progress. That means levels, skills, items, inventory, workshop upgrades, crafting capabilities, and more. Anything you've earned or purchased, such as cosmetics, awards, achievements, and rankings, will be kept. Essentially, anything rooted purely in the metagame or involving real money will be preserved. Now, you might be wondering, why reset your character? Well, even though the team is still finalizing the long-term benefits, the rewards for doing so will be similar to a prestige system in other games. Various expeditions will award permanent account unlocks, such as unique exclusive cosmetic rewards. They've also teased potential account buffs, which will be applied for the duration of the following expedition cycle, and sequential completions of the expedition project will increase the magnitude of these buffs up to a limit. Their goal is for this system to be about cosmetics, bragging rights, quality of life, and smoothing out certain aspects of progression for those who have chosen to undergo a reset. What this boils down to is allowing players with less time to dedicate to the game to keep moving forward without having their progress reset out of their control. At the same time, it allows highly engaged players to experience the game fresh on a regular basis while accruing benefits and bragging rights in the process. We'll certainly see how it all plays out, but it's certainly a different approach than other games in the genre. So there you have it, everything you could possibly need to know about Arc Raiders. As always, if you appreciate videos like this that go into excruciating detail about new and upcoming games, do me a solid, hit that thumbs up, and consider subscribing. We'll have more Arc Raiders at launch, and you won't want to miss a thing. My name is Kodiak, and from everyone here at Legacy Gaming, thanks for watching, and play on.